true nature of the world is not a chaotic sequence of accidents or the byproduct of competing national interests, but a meticulously choreographed masterpiece of systemic enslavement, where the very concept of government serves as a theatrical front for a singular, undying intelligence. If you pull back the curtain of the modern geopolitical stage, you find that the presidents, prime ministers, and dictators who dominate the headlines are merely temporary actors reading from a script composed centuries ago by a bloodline elite that views the common human being as a resource to be managed, harvested, and ultimately transcended. This hidden hand, the true Illuminati, does not operate through the crude, visible tools of 20th century tyranny, like barbed wire and secret police. Instead, they have perfected the art of the invisible cage, a multidimensional prison where the bars are made of debt, the guards are the algorithms of social media, and the inmates are under the permanent delusion that they are free because they are allowed to choose between two identical political parties. This global structure is anchored by the central banking cartel, a private supranational hydra that owns the right to create money out of thin air and lend it to governments at interest, ensuring that every nation on earth is born into a state of unpayable bankruptcy. Because a debtor is always a servant to the lender, no law can be passed, no war can be started, and no social policy can be implemented without the tacit approval of the creditors who hold the world's ledger. This is the ultimate check and balance that the public never sees. The power to collapse a nation's currency overnight if its leadership dares to prioritize its own people over the agenda of the international financial elite. To maintain this absolute grip on a population that outnumbers them 1,000,000 to 1, the Order utilizes a sophisticated psychological framework known as silent weapons for quiet wars. This strategy involves the total saturation of the human environment with low-level stressors and distractions that keep the analytical mind in a state of perpetual fight or flight. By controlling the education system, they have successfully decoupled the populace from the ability to think critically or understand history, replacing real knowledge with a fragmented, emotionalized curriculum that produces specialized workers rather than sovereign thinkers. This is supplemented by the entertainment industrial complex, which pumps out a nonstop stream of hypersexualized, violent, and vapid content designed to degrade the moral and intellectual fiber of the youth, ensuring that each successive generation is more suggestible and less capable of resistance than the last. The very technology that was promised to liberate humanity, the internet, the smartphone, the global satellite grid, has been inverted into the most comprehensive surveillance apparatus in history, a panopticon that doesn't just watch what you do, but uses predictive modeling to determine what you will do next. Every like, every purchase, and every GPS coordinate is fed into a centralized AI architecture that maps the human psyche, allowing the order to steer public opinion through nudges and shadow bans, without the public ever realizing their thoughts are being engineered in a boardroom thousands of miles away. The mechanism of control also relies heavily on the manufactured dialectic, a process where the elite fund and provoke both sides of every major conflict to ensure that the eventual outcome always favors their centralization of power. They provide the capital for the revolution while simultaneously advising the monarchy, ensuring that regardless of who wins the physical battle, the financial and structural victory belongs to the order. This is why, despite decades of political change, the world continues to move toward a singular destination: the dissolution of national sovereignty and the rise of a technocratic global governance. This New World Order is not a conspiracy theory, but an openly discussed objective found in the white papers of organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, where the elites speak plainly about the obsolescence of the nation state. They view the world as a giant laboratory where they can test social engineering theories on a grand scale, using events like climate change, pandemics, or energy shortages as catalytic crises to justify the implementation of a global carbon tax, a universal digital ID, and a social credit system that will effectively end human privacy. In this coming dark age, your ability to buy food, travel, or communicate will be tied to a digital compliance score managed by an algorithm that rewards obedience and punishes dissent, with the flick of a digital switch. Furthermore, the symbolism that litters our daily lives, the pyramids on our currency, the occult geometry of our city streets, the ubiquitous, all seeing eye in corporate logos, is a form of psychological branding. In the philosophy of the secret societies that comprise the Illuminati's inner core, there is a belief in the law of consent, which dictates that they must reveal their intentions to the profane masses. By placing their marks in plain sight and having the public ignore or even celebrate them, they believe they have gained the spiritual and legal right to rule over a population that is too blind to see its own chains. This is why major global events are often preceded by predictive programming in films and literature. It is a ritualistic preparation of the collective subconscious to accept a new reality as inevitable. The Great Reset, currently being promoted by the world's most powerful billionaires, is the final phase of this centuries old plan, a transition into a neo feudalistic society where you will own nothing and be happy, while the elite retreat into high tech enclaves powered by advanced energy sources and life extension technologies that are kept hidden from the general public. They seek to become a separate species, a god class that manages the biological and digital flow of the planet from a position of total untouchability. Ultimately, the power of the Illuminati rests on the great forgetting. They rely on the fact that the average person has a memory that spans only a few election cycles and a vision that extends only to their next paycheck. They operate on a generational timeline, where a plan put into motion in 1913 may not reach its fruition until 2030, moving with a patience that the frantic, short lived citizen cannot comprehend. To truly understand why the world feels increasingly surreal and why governments seem to act against the interests of their own citizens, one must accept the chilling possibility that the government is not a protector, but a buffer, a layer of human padding designed to absorb the anger of the masses and prevent it from ever reaching the true masters who sit in the silent, wood paneled rooms of private clubs and central banks. The battle is not between left and right, or even between nations. It is a war for the very soul of humanity, fought with the weapons of perception, debt, and fear. As long as the public continues to look for saviors in the very political system that was built to enslave them, the great work of the order will continue toward its cold mechanical completion, turning the world into a perfectly ordered hive where the only sound left is the hum of the machines and the silence of a species that has forgotten it was ever meant to be free. If this message resonates with you, do not let it dissolve into the background noise of your daily scroll. Question everything. Research beyond headlines. Revisit history with fresh eyes. Strengthen your critical thinking, protect your attention, and have courageous conversations with those around you. Awareness is the first fracture in any invisible cage. Share this perspective, spark dialogue, and refuse to surrender your curiosity, because a mind that continues to question can never be fully controlled.